What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I am at home. As you can see, Old Blue is behind me. This is another Old Blue video. I believe it's the 5th one in the series so far. We are not doing any work to it today, but I do want to discuss some things. So quite a few months ago, I think it was probably 6 months ago almost, I made a video. Actually, it's probably longer now. It's probably almost a year ago. I made a video of a build list of parts that I wanted, that I had on Summit Racing, that I was going to get to build this engine into a nice street engine. And that video absolutely took off. It has over 2,500 views at the moment, I think, or 2,400, somewhere right around there. But the entire plan has since changed, like it usually does with any build. It just keeps going. So now the build is not going to be NA, it is going to be a turbo build, and I want to be able to push 15 pounds of boost through this engine, which is going to take a lot more. It's getting bored. There's just a lot that's going into it. But the first thing I want to talk about right now is this turbo right here. I don't know how well you can see. You can probably see it pretty good. This is a Caterpillar turbo, as you can see right there. It is actually a Garrett turbo made for Caterpillar, just branded Caterpillar. I don't remember what the Garrett number for this is. It's a GTA 4 something, 4294 or something like that, I believe. But this, the Caterpillar number is 0R-7578. So this is a 74 millimeter turbo. It seems big for a 5 liter, or after it's bored it'll be like 5.1 or 5.2 liter 6-cylinder, considering it came off a 12 liter diesel. But it has an AR rating right here, as you can see, of 0.66. Excuse me, my phone is ringing. All right, boys, back to this turbo. I got off the phone with Mom. So this turbo is, like I said before, it has an AR of 0.66, and the designation on this housing says M24, but it is a 74 millimeter turbo. It doesn't have any side to side, or doesn't have any forward, backward play, just a little bit of side to side, and it makes no noise when you spin it. It's a perfectly good turbo. So the farm was going to get rid of it because the wastegate actuator rusted in half, clearly, as you can see here. But the rest of the turbo is fine. This turbo is probably capable, I would imagine, of putting, you could probably run it and put 80 pounds of boost through something. But the wastegate on it was set at 22.19 PSI. I called Caterpillar, I called Garrett, and I called Borg-Warner, and none of them make a actuator for this turbo that is lower than 22.19 PSI, and that is too much to push through a gasser without complete aftermarket heads and stuff, which I can't get because they don't make aftermarket heads. You just have to get factory heads and have them ported and polished. So anyway, my plan is to either drift this plug out somehow and weld or braze the wastegate flap to the housing, or come right here and braze the rod that the wastegate pivots on to the housing here and seal that wastegate. Because if I use this turbo, which I fully intend to because it was totally free, I didn't have to buy it, and it's gonna work, it's a perfect turbo. I will be rebuilding it eventually, so stay tuned for a turbo rebuild video. But the plan is to seal the wastegate on this housing, this internal wastegate on this housing, and run an external wastegate at 10 to 15 PSI, somewhere in there, whatever I feel happy with. But the rest of the plan for the truck, so that having a turbo totally changes the plan. I still do plan to have a big cam, a 268 cam from Comp, and I do still plan to do full custom exhaust. I do plan to bore it, still put pistons in it, still 40 thousandths over, run it at 309 cubic inches, get the head ported and polished, or I have another option of getting a Ford 240 head and getting it ported and polished and having 300 valves, Ford 300 valves put in because they're a little bigger. But having that smaller combustion chamber would increase the compression a little more to almost 10 to 1 compression instead of 8.8 to 1 right now. With that being said, obviously this brings on a whole new aspect to the build, and it is awesome. I am so ready to do this build now. I'm pumped. This still won't be a build for probably another year at least, till I'm out of college. Year minimum, if not more than that. So you're just gonna have to stay tuned. I'm gonna try and do little things here and there, like as you can see here, the body panel, this front clip is actually crooked. If you look down the body line of the truck, which you may not be able to see, it actually dips in and comes back out for the bed. But you can see the bumper here and the bumper here, how it has this gap. The bumper is bolted straight to the frame with no adjustment, so it goes on and that's it. and you can clearly see that the body is not centered. And if you look down this side of the truck, you can't see the bed, and that is because right here the bed and the body do not line up, and they make a crooked, they don't match up. And as you can see, the body needs work on this truck. I haven't really gone too in depth, but the paint is chipped off, the wheel wells are rotted out, the fuel tanks need replaced, more rust, the sending units don't work, the fuel gauge doesn't exactly work, the exhaust is exploded, more rust, cab corners are shot, there's a hole in the floor, all the clear coat is flaking off. I do plan to keep the truck this color though. I love this color blue. It is absolutely amazing. And this fender here, you can see, and the door, they're all starting to rot out. But for the original body, which this is 100% the original body, never had work done to it. Being the original body, it is in very good shape for what it is. As you can see, this fender has no rust on it anywhere at all, which is quite amazing. Same with this door. There's just a little rust here, and you can see the alignment is off and this door is bent in. But the interior, while it did have some mice in it, even they kind of chewed up this rug a good bit. I'm actually just gonna toss this in the bed. More junk. But you can see here, there were some mice on the seat. Those are brakes for the front that I never put on, and that is a shock. So that's another issue with the truck that is going to be addressed when I do all the body work. I do plan on getting a different bed for this. I would like to put a dually axle under the back and make this a 3500 so I can run a skirted flatbed with a dually and make it kind of a service truck or a farm truck or just a work truck and just a nice work truck. But back in here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. The frame is actually cracked. And there's actually a hole in the frame right back here. You can't see that, and I don't have a flashlight. But right over this bump stop, the frame is cracked, and I believe also over the suspension hanger, the frame is cracked in the back. But you can see that the rust and stuff builds up in here, and this is a problem with all these old Ford frames. They just got rusty real bad because everything is riveted on and not welded. The parking brake doesn't work, which I'm not concerned about. This shock in here is shot, and it won't come out. The rubber is seized to the stud, and I broke the end off, so I couldn't change that. But the interior, for what it is, the only thing broken on the interior is the speakers in the doors don't work. They blew out, and this the fuel tank selector switch is cracked through. So I plan on doing a fully custom interior. I want to keep this dash, but for the gauge cluster, I want to try and use a Holley EFI or a Holley digital dash for that. And the steering wheel needs replaced because it's got that old sticky steering wheel. I want to do, obviously it's getting stripped when I do all the body work, but when the cab is done being worked with the body, I don't know if I'm going to do it all yet, or if I'm probably going to have the cab sent out to be redone because that's pretty technical. All the window seals need done, the doors need taken apart, and everything needs replaced. The windows are actually loose. I want to get new glass in it. Yeah, a new headliner, because this one's kind of starting to fall down and get fluffy. But all in all, the interior, as you can see, is in quite good shape. The seat isn't torn up. This is the only real issue with the seat right here. This is the only rip in the whole truck. And it's just a nice truck on the inside. It was well taken care of. The farmer I bought it from used it as a daily for a long time. And that's a rear view mirror. But he drove it as a daily until 2003 or 2002 when he bought his Dodge. This is a 5-speed truck, 4-speed with overdrive, ZF5. It is the ZF5S, it's the S542 ZF transmission, so it's the weaker transmission. But it has held up to my abuse that I had it for, which was only like 7 months that I drove it. But it held up, and I beat the crap out of it. 4-wheel drive still works. It is a split axle in the front, unfortunately. So I want to convert that over to an F350 solid axle with king pins instead of ball joints. If I can. If I can't do it, then I will settle for ball joints. But either way, I'd rather have king pins in 4-wheel drive than ball joints in 4-wheel drive. But whatever it takes is whatever it takes. I want to get some headlights for it. Again, just cosmetically make it look nice. I really would like to keep steel wheels though, just because it's an old truck and that's just kind of a vibe. I don't really want to run a lift kit on it or anything. I just want to keep it as stock as possible with a built engine and a built transmission. And like I said, I want to do a dually axle with a skirted flatbed. And I want to keep the dual tanks, because if I can keep the dual tanks, that just makes it even better. So anyway, that's the plan, guys. But for the engine, which I'm gonna open the hood so we can talk about it, which means I need to move this turbo and put it back in my car so that I can take it back up to the farm with me and braze that shut. So let me do that real quick and I'll be right back. Okay guys, I only have 30 minutes left on this battery and I don't really want to go inside and get another one. So we're going to run through this real quick. The engine. So the reason I am not driving this truck is because it will not start. It does fire, but it misfires very bad. It fills the exhaust up with, fills the cylinders up with fuel and goes bang really loud, backfires, and then dies. So I've narrowed the issue down. As you can see, there's a brand new distributor in here. If you haven't seen all my videos on the engine and everything I did over the summer, go watch those videos. I'm going to be making a full playlist of this build because I've had this truck for 3 years and I only drove it for 7 months 3 years ago when I was 17. So, the first big thing to notice is that I took the smog pump out. So the belt is significantly shorter and has much less load on the engine. Also, this truck is a factory non-AC truck, which I love because that leaves me a lot of space up here to put a big intercooler in, and we will be able to move this air box out of the way. We can probably get a different build, a radiator tank to put in here for the overflow, or put it over here and put the battery over there. But I plan to get rid of all of this vacuum stuff, most of it if I can. And obviously, with a turbo build, as you can see, the exhaust is down under here, and they are split manifolds. So if you don't know what I mean, basically what I'm saying is 3 cylinders get one manifold, and the other 3 cylinders get another manifold, and they go into a wide pipe, which is the catalytic converter from the factory. So this is an EFI model. As you can see, we have a throttle body here, electronically controlled for cruise control, mechanically controlled for foot throttle. But this intake will be gone. The exhaust I'm going to be custom making, or I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'll probably get a header, cut all the pipes off of it, and make a custom manifold, and I will make a custom wheel well liner. Like I said, I'm getting this stuff out of here, and I will reroute the heater core lines probably along the head right here, or along the valve cover, and run them back over there. But I want to have the turbo sitting right here if I can, which means a custom wheel well liner will probably have to be made. But before any of that can happen, the first thing I have to do is replace this core support, because as you can see, maybe you can, maybe you can't, down in there, they are completely rotted apart. I can show you from underneath. You can see these mounts right here are completely rotted out, and the core support is not sitting on anything, and that's why the whole doghouse is crooked. Also, another thing to note is that this motor mount is completely broken apart. It should look like this one down here, but as you can see, the engine is kind of crooked. There's a gap right there. I talk about that in my other videos, so I'm not going too in depth. I'm just kind of going over the problems. Now, with the turbo, I'm not going to be using the OBD1 factory computer, which you can see sticking out right there, down in that corner. I am going to be switching this over to a 4-barrel carbureted intake with a Fast Easy 2.0 fuel injected carburetor. So it is an EFI system, but it looks like a carburetor and mounts to a 4-barrel intake, and it is a 4-wire system with a self-tuning computer that you can adjust manually through a little screen to mount in the dash. So basically what I'm saying is all of this rat's nest of wiring up in here and all over this engine, and most of the vacuum stuff is going to go away, which is great, because these vacuum systems and the old EFI systems like this one from the factory are just absolute garbage, and they are very hard to work with and hard to tune. So by doing that, yes, it costs more money. The Fast Easy cost about $3,000, but it's good for, I think their website said 1,800 horsepower. Do not quote me on that. This truck is never going to make that much horsepower because the engine won't hold it. But like I was saying before, the plan is to get a 240 head, ported and polished, full port, full polish, as big as we can get it, with the biggest valves we can possibly put in it to increase flow. We're going to get a big 4-barrel intake, ported and polished, so that we can flow lots of boosted air through it. And we're going to make a custom exhaust manifold to hold the turbo right here, probably with a mounting arm that goes over to here to hold that 20-something pound turbo, so that it doesn't rely on the factory bolts, or the ARP bolts are going to put in it to hold that. And also with the Fast Easy, You can change the injectors inside the carburetor body, inside the throttle body, I guess you would call it. You can change the injectors to put more fuel or put less fuel. So if we run into problems where we're over boosting with not enough fuel, and we want to keep higher boost levels, we can just put more fuel in it to make more power, which is the goal. The goal is to make this as reliable as possible with the most amount of power possible, just to have a fun, streetable daily driver and work truck. So, radiator is going to get changed. Obviously, this is only a 1-inch thick radiator. This is the factory radiator. I'm going to be getting a 3-inch radiator, so it'll be about this thick. And I will probably have to do some fab work up here, cut these out maybe out of the core support just to get the radiator up this way a little more. And we may have to take this out and make some custom gussets somewhere. I don't know, but we have to put a big intercooler in here to run that turbo, and we have to put a big radiator because we're boosting an old engine that wasn't meant for boost. So that's the plan, guys. My hope is to have a 500 horse, 700 foot-pounds of torque out of this engine with a big single turbo. If we have to go compounds, we can make provisions for that and try and squeeze it in here. Luckily, being an inline 6, we have all kinds of room to work with, and if we have to, we can route so with the 4-barrel, it's going to sit right about here. This will be the top, about where this is, but just over here with the Offenhauser C-Series intake. So that'll leave us a little bit of height, so we can run, if we have to, we can run intercooler piping or exhaust around or underneath or behind or something. We'll figure it out, but we can run the exhaust over to here because we have all of this space to mount a turbo if we need to. But our only hindrance there would be the power steering, and obviously this air box is going to be gone because the turbo is just going to get a filter on the front. So that's the plan right now, guys. This is going to be a big single turbo build. I have not seen many people do this. The only person I know of on YouTube that's actually done it successfully is Wasted Paycheck Garage. He put a 78mm turbo on an old carbureted model with the Holley Sniper system, which is an EFI carburetor, and it seems to work pretty good. I actually just watched a video from him the other day of pulling a 12,000-pound load with it, and it pulled really well. So I know it's possible. It is going to take a lot of work and a lot of time. Again, the whole truck is getting restored. And as for the frame, like I mentioned before, it was cracked and rusting apart, and all the brackets were coming off. And it's not really safe to drive like that. So the plan for that is to get a like a 6-liter Power Stroke frame. A single cab long bed, 6-liter Power Stroke, frame, chassis, whatever you want to call it. Use the axles out of that, preferably a dually. Get a dually axle for the back, maybe not get a dually truck, but make it a dually and use that frame and just mount this body and that engine in it. That's going to be the easiest thing other than trying to modify and fix this frame, because it is a 35-year-old frame, something like that. Truck's from 1988, so it's an old truck, 34 years, I believe. Yeah, so I would rather have a newer, updated frame that I can get parts for, that has 4-wheel disc brakes and is just going to be a little more stout with bigger suspension, especially if it's an F350. I want to get an F350 single rear wheel, single cab, short bed frame, and a dually axle for it. And just put this body, the cab in the doghouse, after it has been worked and repainted, onto that chassis, which that, again, like I said, I'm going to have a place to do that and a shop to do that in, and the time and money to do it as well, which I don't have right now. This is just more of an update video for the new plan. So, overview, new plan, new frame off of an 05 or an 06 F350 6-liter Power Stroke. That is the chassis we're going to go with. We are keeping this engine and the ZF5 transmission, unless I can find a ZF6 that will bolt to this and we could have a 6-speed. Now, that is that, but the engine, obviously, like I said before, is going to be completely rebuilt, bare block. We're going to get it bored. Unfortunately, you can't stroke these without cutting and welding the crank, and I'm not going to do that because that's unreliable. So we're going to keep the same 3.5-inch stroke, or whatever it is, 3.98-inch stroke, something like that, and we are going to go from a 4-inch bore to a 4.04-inch bore. And that should give us about 9 cubic inches, 8 or 9 cubic inches onto this engine, making compression go up almost a whole a whole ratio, I guess. It goes from like 8.9 or 8.1 or 8.8 to 1 to almost 9.9 to 1, somewhere in there. And if we get the smaller head, it should put it right around 10 to 1 compression, which in my opinion is perfect for a turbo build with a low RPM engine. I don't plan on spinning it faster than 5K. The turbo should work fine. We won't overspeed the turbo at 5,000 RPM, especially because the volume is so small out of this engine, the exhaust volume. So anyway, the turbo build should work very well. We are still going to do most of what is in that build list. If you want to go see that, I will link it down below, and it'll be in the playlist somewhere, probably the first one in the playlist. But anyway, that is where we're at with this truck. Custom interior, same exterior, just reworked and restored on a new frame with a built engine and a built transmission. That is the end goal for this truck. Also with these mirrors, I want to get the big dually mirrors that they had that bolted up here and came down and bolted to the door and had the big like semi mirrors, because I think that would look absolutely awesome on a work truck. But again, like I said, the whole goal for this truck is to make an awesome, high power, high street, nice custom street build on a work truck chassis that is reliable and usable for daily driving and also usable for work. That's why I don't want to lift. I want to be able to pull goosenecks with it. I want to be able to haul in the bed. I want to be able to put maybe a welder on it or something like that to do mobile welding. And a skirted flatbed gives me the option to do boxes down here as well. So that's the plan for the truck, guys. If you haven't seen all the other videos on this, make sure you go down below and check the playlist and check all the links. I also have a merch store online. I'll leave that link down there. I don't expect you to buy anything, but it would make me really happy, and I would greatly appreciate it if you guys would at least go check it out and see what you think. And let me know for merch ideas if you guys even want merch. I know the channel is growing slowly, but over the last few months, we have gained almost 20 subscribers. So I'm so happy. When I reach 100 subscribers, I am going to be doing the 100 Chicken Nugget Challenge for 100 subscriber special. As of this morning, when this video is being filmed, which is Saturday the 29th of January, I have 92 subscribers. So 8 more subscribers and I will make a whole dedicated video to eating chicken nuggets and just torturing myself. So I'm gonna go. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will catch you in the next one.